Her brother had always carried a quiet envy inside him, a bitterness he tried to hide behind loud laughter and unnecessary orders. He was older, stronger, and favored by the stepmother who had entered their home years after their mother died, but none of that filled the hollow inside him. What angered him most was not her softness, nor her silence, nor even the way villagers gravitated toward her with gentle respect. It was the closeness she had shared with their late mother, a bond he had never been able to break or replace. Their mother had trusted her with little duties, whispered old stories to her, and held her hand during evening walks, leaving him on the side with a feeling he never learned how to swallow. That feeling had grown into something darker over the years. And now, with their mother gone, he saw no reason to hide it anymore. The morning he took her shoes, there was no warning. She woke up and found him standing at the doorway with the pair dangling from his hand like a prize he had hunted. He looked at her with a smirk, as if daring her to ask for them. When she remained quiet, he declared that she had grown too proud, too confident, too unafraid, and that it was time someone reminded her of her place. The stepmother, who had been eavesdropping with her arms crossed and her lips pressed into a thin, judgmental line, stepped forward and announced that this punishment would teach her humility. She said it in a tone so sweet it felt poisonous. She added that a girl who walked lightly should learn how the earth truly felt. Together they created a cruelty wrapped in excuses. They made her walk barefoot across the compound, knowing the ground was covered with dry thorns from the previous night's sweeping and scattered stones that bit into skin. They watched her with the satisfaction of people who believed they had control, and the stepmother nodded proudly at her own cleverness. Word spread quickly in the household and then through the neighboring compounds. Children snickered behind walls, women whispered into each other's ears, and even the elders, though more reserved, looked at her with pity. She could feel the heat of their eyes on her bare feet each time she crossed the courtyard to fetch water, sweep the yard, or carry out the chores that she was suddenly assigned in excess. But what they all expected to see, a girl breaking, crying, or begging, never appeared. She walked carefully, yes, but with a strange stillness in her expression, as if she knew a secret they had not yet discovered. Even when small cuts formed on her heels or when the hot afternoon earth burned the soles of her feet, she did not complain. Instead, she paid attention to the sensations under her skin, the textures that shifted as she stepped, the way different parts of the compound felt compared to others. She felt the earth differently than before, raw and unfiltered, and it awakened something she couldn't name. Deep inside her, beneath the shame they tried to force upon her, she sensed there was more to their sudden cruelty. Her brother's eyes avoided hers too quickly, and the stepmother's eagerness to humiliate her felt almost desperate, as though they feared something she couldn't see yet. Their anger was not simply anger, it was panic wearing a mask. And as she moved barefoot on the ground that should have broken her spirit, she felt instead a quiet pull from somewhere beneath the soil, as if the earth itself was calling her attention toward a truth they wanted her to never uncover. The morning sun had only begun stretching itself across the compound when she went outside with her usual tasks, her bare feet already coated in a thin layer of dust. By then, she had grown used to the sharpness of stones, the sting of thorns, and the occasional bite of the earth's dryness. She had learned to walk differently, not timidly, but with an alertness that made each step deliberate and aware. The ground, harsh as it was, had begun to feel like an old conversation, unpleasant at times, familiar at others, but constant in a way nothing else in her life seemed to be. Her brother watched her from the doorway with narrowed eyes, irritated that she still hadn't crumbled. The stepmother pretended to ignore her, though her gaze followed her every movement like a hawk guarding stolen prey. They expected humiliation to break her spirit, not sharpen her senses. As she began sweeping the far side of the compound, she drifted toward the giant old mango tree that had stood there since long before she was born. It was the tree her mother used to rest under during hot afternoons, humming soft melodies as she carved small symbols into calabashes. Even after her death, the tree seemed to hold pieces of her mother's presence, like a guardian too old and rooted to be moved or silenced. She had always felt drawn to it, though her stepmother had once warned her never to linger there. That warning at the time had seemed unnecessary. Now it replayed in her mind with sharp clarity. She walked closer, broom in hand, and as she stepped beneath the shadow of the wide branches, something unexpected happened. Her left foot sank slightly into a patch of soil that felt wrong. Not soft, not muddy, but warm, unnaturally warm, as though the sun had been heating it for hours. Yet this part of the compound was still in shade. Before she could shift her weight, the warmth intensified, spreading upward through her skin like a subtle pulse. Then the ground itself seemed to tremble, not violently, but with a faint, steady vibration, as though something beneath the earth had stirred in response to her presence. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. Her first instinct was to pull her foot away, but some deeper intuition held her in place, anchoring her to that spot. The vibration wasn't frightening. It felt almost familiar. Like the gentle thrum of a heartbeat pressed against her palm long ago. It was as if the earth recognized her. As if something buried beneath the surface had been waiting for her bare foot, to touch it. Her mind raced through possibilities. Was it an animal burrowing? A trick of the wind? A patch of earth unsettled by last night's rain? But none of those explanations could match what she felt. This was intentional, deliberate, aware. The sensation lingered for several long seconds, then slowly faded until the soil beneath her became still and cool again, returning to its ordinary lifelessness. She lifted her foot, examining the spot. Nothing looked unusual. Just dirt, tree roots, scattered leaves. But she knew with certainty that something had changed. The earth had reacted to her. Chosen her. A sense of unease crept through her chest. Not fear exactly, but a deep disruption, as though a locked door inside her mind had opened a crack. She glanced around to see if anyone had noticed. Her brother was arguing with the stepmother on the other side of the compound, their voices too sharp and distracted to notice her hesitation. No one saw her pause. No one saw her press her toes back into the soil for a fleeting second, hoping the sensation would return. It didn't. And she told no one, not because she feared being mocked, but because instinct warned her that the warmth, the vibration, the strange welcome from the earth was not meant for anyone else to know. Not yet. That night, when the house had finally gone quiet and only the insects dared fill the darkness with their small voices, she slipped silently out of the sleeping hut. The moon hung low, its pale glow barely brushing the tops of the mango leaves, making the path to the tree feel both familiar and forbidden. She moved cautiously, her steps light, her heartbeat loud enough that she feared it might wake the whole compound. But she felt compelled, pulled, toward the place where the earth had spoken to her that morning. Curiosity, fear, and something deeper guided her feet. When she reached the mango tree, she paused, letting her eyes adjust to the dimness. The night air was cooler, almost sharp, but as she stepped closer to the exact patch of soil, the temperature shifted subtly. The ground seemed to warm in anticipation, as though it recognized her arrival even before her skin touched it. She swallowed hard, breath trembling, and slowly lowered her bare foot onto the same spot. This time the response was immediate. A faint hum rose from beneath the surface, soft at first, like a distant sound carried by memory rather than air. It wasn't wind, nor animal, nor any noise she could explain. It felt like a tired voice, an old voice, stirring awake after too many years of silence. The vibration brushed up her leg, warm and gentle, as if greeting her. For a moment she stood frozen, afraid to move, afraid to lose the connection. The soil shifted slightly beneath her toes, not enough to alarm but enough to tell her that something alive lingered below. Not alive like flesh but alive like memory. Alive like truth. And as the hum deepened for a heartbeat before fading again, she realized the earth was not simply welcoming her. It was calling her. As the hum faded, the soil beneath her foot began to loosen, shifting in a slow, deliberate ripple as though guided by an invisible hand. She stepped back instinctively, watching with wide eyes as the earth settled again, softer than before. The moonlight caught the subtle movement, and when she knelt down, brushing away the top layer of dirt with trembling fingers, she saw it, lines. Not random marks, not natural cracks, but deliberate strokes carved into the ground long ago. She leaned closer, her breath catching as more of the pattern revealed itself. Spirals, perfect, intentional spirals, curved into one another like paths leading inward. Beneath them, small arrow-like shapes pointed toward the base of the tree, forming a story only someone taught in old symbols could understand. And there, near the center, half buried and almost erased by time, was a symbol she recognized instantly, the clan mark of ancestral custodians. A mark she had once seen her mother trace gently on her own wrist during quiet evenings. A mark her mother had forbidden anyone else in the household to touch. Her fingers hovered above it, afraid to disturb it but unable to pull away. The realization struck her slowly, but when it settled, it felt too large for her chest to contain. These symbols weren't random carvings. They weren't accidents left behind by roots or animals. They were a message, an old message placed here with intention and hope. A message left for her. Images of her mother flickered through her mind. Her soft voice, her secretive smiles, the way she always told her daughter to walk barefoot in certain parts of the yard, claiming it would teach her to listen to the earth. At the time, It had seemed like gentle motherly wisdom. Now she understood. Her mother had known. Known that someone would try to silence her daughter, to strip her of protection and memory. Known that one day, the only way for her to find the truth would be through her bare feet. The carvings were both a warning and an invitation. A path only she, barefoot and unbroken, could follow. With the symbols still fresh in her mind, she rose slowly, wiping the soil from her hands as a strange certainty guided her steps. The arrows carved beneath the spirals were subtle, almost hidden beneath years of dust, but now that she had seen them, they felt unmistakable. Each one pointed toward the far corner of the compound where the abandoned storage hut stood, a place no one entered anymore, not even to hide things. The closer she walked, the heavier the air felt, as if the night itself held its breath in anticipation. The hut had once belonged to her mother, used to store old calabashes, mats and little items too precious to throw away. But after her mother's death, her stepmother declared it unnecessary and ordered it sealed. Now its wooden door hung crookedly, swollen by rain and time. She pushed it gently, wincing as the hinges groaned in protest, but the sound was swallowed quickly by the darkness inside. When she stepped in, dust swirled around her like tiny spirits disturbed from sleep. She crouched low, her fingers brushing across old fabric, cloths faded by the years, still carrying traces of her mother's careful hand-stitching. Broken calabashes lay scattered in one corner, their once beautiful carvings cracked open as if someone had smashed them deliberately. Her chest tightened at the sight. These were not signs of decay. They were signs of intrusion. She moved deeper into the hut, noticing a wooden panel leaning oddly against the back wall. Unlike the rest of the room, the area behind it looked too clean, too recently disturbed. She reached for the panel, her heart pounding, and when she pulled it away, a cold emptiness stared back at her. The rectangular hollow carved into the wall was empty, utterly empty, yet the outline of dust around it told a different story. Something had rested there for years, untouched, protected. Something that was no longer there. She ran her fingers along the edges, feeling grooves worn smooth by her mother's hands long before hers. Someone had taken whatever belonged in that space. Not recently, but not long enough ago for the dust to hide the truth. Her breath came shallow and slow as the realization wrapped around her. Someone had known her mother left something important here. Someone had stolen it. And someone had made sure she would never find it, unless she followed the earth's whispers herself. The discovery in the storage hut left her restless through the night. She could barely sleep, the emptiness in the wall haunting her like a gaping wound. By dawn, she knew she needed answers. Real ones, not the half-truths her stepmother fed the village, not the silence her brother used as a shield. There was only one person alive who might still know the pieces of the story her mother never got the chance to tell: the old village weaver. The woman had been her mother's closest friend, her companion during festivals, her confidant in matters even the family never heard. Age had weakened her limbs, but her memory was said to be sharp enough to cut through lies. She waited until her chores were done, until her stepmother's attention drifted elsewhere, and then slipped out quietly, walking the narrow footpath that led toward the weaver's hut on the far edge of the village. The morning air smelled of smoke and dew, and the distant clatter of pestles echoed faintly from nearby compounds. When she reached the weaver's place, she found the old woman seated outside, her frail fingers moving slowly but skillfully across brightly colored threads stretched on a wooden frame. The patterns she wove were ancient, belonging to a time before many villagers even remembered. When the weaver lifted her head and saw her, her cloudy eyes widened with recognition and something sharper, something like worry. "You walk barefoot, child," the elder said softly, her voice trembling like thin cloth in a breeze. "That means you've seen something." The girl knelt beside her, unsure where to begin. But the moment she mentioned the warm earth, the hum beneath the mango tree, and the hidden carvings she had uncovered, the weaver's hands stopped mid-motion. The threads slid from her grasp. "Your mother prepared for this?" the elder whispered. She feared it before she feared her own sickness. Her heart pounded as the woman motioned her closer, lowering her voice to a near whisper. "Your mother was the last living guardian of the ancestral oath," the weaver said. "A role passed only through blood. Not through marriage. Not through power. Through lineage. The guardians protected the truth of the lands, the families, the spirit ties of our people. They carried knowledge that others could not be trusted with, knowledge that could expose lies, corrupt leadership, and hidden betrayals." The girl felt the world tilt slightly. Her mother, gentle and soft-spoken, carrying something so powerful? Something so dangerous? "Her children were meant to inherit the knowledge," the elder continued. "You and your brother, but your mother already saw the shadows gathering around him. His greed. His anger. The way he listened too closely to the whispers of your stepmother. She feared giving him what he would only twist. The elder shook her head slowly, sadness lining every wrinkle of her face. Your stepmother was never meant to hold a place in that legacy. She married your father for reasons that had nothing to do with family or love. When she learned that your mother held a power she could never touch, she grew desperate. She turned your brother against you. Together, they decided that if they could not have the truth, they would destroy it. Her throat tightened, breath shallow. The pieces were beginning to connect. The sudden change after her mother's death, the harshness, the unexplained hostility, the storage hut sealed away like a grave. They destroyed your mother's works, the weaver whispered. Burned her records. Broke her carvings. Hid the charm she meant to give you. And when you began growing into your mother's quiet strength, they feared you more than they ever feared her. The elder reached out, placing a trembling hand on her cheek. But the earth remembers what people try to hide. Your mother left her warnings in a language only you, barefoot, silenced, pushed into humility, would be able to read. The oath has awakened for you, child. And now that you've felt its call, nothing your stepmother or brother do can stop what is coming. The girl felt a shiver run through her, not of fear, but of destiny settling into her bones. She finally understood why they tried so hard to break her. Because they knew she was the one thing they could never control. You said, the elder's voice lowered further, carrying the weight of generations long past. Your mother did not leave you empty-handed, she said, her frail fingers tracing a delicate line in the air as if drawing the shape of the object itself. She hid something for you, something powerful. A charm, crafted from rainstone, made to endure the years and withstand the greed of those who would misuse it. It is not just a trinket. It is the key to seeing what others cannot. To revealing the truth that many have tried to bury. The girl's heart thumped as the elder continued, each word heavy with consequence. Rainstone is rare. It captures the essence of water and sky, the duality of life and spirit. Your mother's hands worked tirelessly to forge it into a protective talisman. It carries her intention, her wisdom, her care. And it carries a purpose far beyond what ordinary eyes can perceive. Whoever holds it becomes the rightful heir, the keeper of your family's lands, their secrets, and the oath she protected. She swallowed hard, her mind spinning. The empty space in the storage hut, the missing panel, the absence of the object her mother once safeguarded, it all began to make sense. The anger of her stepmother, the cruelty of her brother, the lengths they had gone to erase every trace of her mother's influence, it was all fear. Fear of this charm. Fear that if she found it, their lies, their stolen power, and their deceit would no longer hold. The charm chooses, the elder added softly, her cloudy eyes locking onto the girl's. It awakens only for those who are worthy, for those who are patient, observant, and steadfast. You must not underestimate it, nor the danger surrounding it. They do not want you to uncover it because once it is found, the truth will emerge and their false authority will crumble. They feared your mother's death, but they fear your awakening even more. The girl felt a strange surge of determination coursing through her veins. The earth's warmth, the hum beneath the mango tree, the hidden symbols, they had all led her to this moment. The missing object was not just a relic, it was the source of power her family had tried to hide, the reason for every act of cruelty she had endured. And now, understanding its purpose, she knew with absolute certainty what she must do. She would find it. She would claim it. Because it was hers by right. And the fear in their hearts would guide her steps. That night, the compound was still, a heavy silence pressing against the walls of the hut. The girl moved with practiced stealth, her bare feet barely making a sound against the cold, uneven floor. Every shadow felt alive, every creak of the house amplified in the darkness. She pressed herself against the wall near the doorway, careful not to breathe too loudly, and waited. Her stepmother's lamp flickered dimly in the next room, throwing long, wavering shadows across the compound. The air smelled faintly of smoke from the kitchen hearth, mingled with the musty scent of the old wooden floorboards. She had heard their voices before, hushed but urgent as they argued. Her brother's tone was sharp, defensive, and laced with panic, while her stepmother's words were cold, deliberate, calculated to manipulate. The girl crouched lower, straining to catch every syllable without being seen. "They've been getting too close," her brother hissed, his hands trembling as he paced the small space. "I've seen her wandering around the compound, touching things she shouldn't. She knows more than we realize. If she finds it, everything is gone." The stepmother's voice softened into something almost intimate, almost conspiratorial. "We buried it the night your mother died. We hid it deep where no one would find it. And yet she senses something. She's not ordinary. That girl, she's sharp, far too sharp. She could uncover the truth before we're ready. Her heart pounded in her chest as she realized the weight of their words. They were speaking of the charm. The very charm the elder had described, the one her mother had hidden for her, the one that chose its rightful heir. They had feared her discovery from the very beginning, and their fear had driven them to acts of cruelty so calculated it sent shivers down her spine. Her brother's voice dropped to a low growl. We have to finish this. If she gets too curious, we cannot risk it. She must never find the charm. If she does, she'll take everything. And we'll lose everything we've stolen from her family. Her stepmother's agreement was cold, unflinching. Then we must dispose of her the moment she begins to understand. No hesitation, no mercy. We cannot let her expose us. Not now, not ever. The girl's stomach churned, but her mind sharpened. Every detail mattered. Their fear, their plan, their acknowledgement of her strength. They had underestimated her, assuming she would remain small, timid, afraid. But she was neither. She pressed herself closer to the wall, letting the night wrap around her like a cloak. Their plotting, their cruelty, their attempts to erase her mother's legacy, all of it had been driven by fear. But that fear was now hers to use. She would not wait for them to act. She would act first. And every step she had taken barefoot, every symbol she had deciphered, every secret whispered to her by the earth had led to this moment of clarity. They thought they could control her. They thought they could hide the truth forever. But as she listened to their plotting, she understood for the first time just how wrong they were. The elder's voice lowered further, carrying the weight of generations long past. Your mother did not leave you empty-handed, she said, her frail fingers tracing a delicate line in the air as if drawing the shape of the object itself. She hid something for you, something powerful. A charm, crafted from rainstone, made to endure the years and withstand the greed of those who would misuse it. It is not just a trinket. It is the key to seeing what others cannot, to revealing the truth that many have tried to bury. The girl's heart thumped as the elder continued, each word heavy with consequence. Rainstone is rare. It captures the essence of water and sky, the duality of life and spirit. Your mother's hands worked tirelessly to forge it into a protective talisman. It carries her intention, her wisdom, her care. And it carries a purpose far beyond what ordinary eyes can perceive. Whoever holds it becomes the rightful heir, the keeper of your family's lands, their secrets, and the oath she protected. She swallowed hard, her mind spinning. The empty space in the storage hut, the missing panel, the absence of the object her mother once safeguarded, it all began to make sense. The anger of her stepmother, the cruelty of her brother, the lengths they had gone to erase every trace of her mother's influence, it was all fear. Fear of this charm. Fear that if she found it, their lies, their stolen power, and their deceit would no longer hold. The charm chooses, the elder added softly, her cloudy eyes locking onto the girl's. It awakens only for those who are worthy, for those who are patient, observant, and steadfast. You must not underestimate it, nor the danger surrounding it. They do not want you to uncover it because once it is found, the truth will emerge and their false authority will crumble. They feared your mother's death, but they fear your awakening even more. The girl felt a strange surge of determination coursing through her veins. The earth's warmth, the hum beneath the mango tree, the hidden symbols, they had all led her to this moment. The missing object was not just a relic, it was the source of power her family had tried to hide, the reason for every act of cruelty she had endured. And now, understanding its purpose, she knew with absolute certainty what she must do. She would find it. She would claim it. Because it was hers by right. And the fear in their hearts would guide her steps. The moon had long since claimed the sky, bathing the compound in pale, silvery light, as if nature itself were holding its breath in anticipation. She returned to the mango tree where her barefoot had first awakened the soil's secret. Every step toward it was deliberate, cautious, but filled with a quiet fury born of years of cruelty, years of being underestimated, and now years of knowing the truth was within reach. She knelt at its base, brushing away the dry leaves and fallen twigs, feeling the familiar warmth beneath her fingers as she touched the earth. The vibration beneath her feet was faint but unmistakable, almost like a heartbeat resonating in the soil itself, guiding her hands to the precise spot where she needed to begin. She retrieved a small wooden spade she had hidden earlier, a crude but sturdy tool, and began digging. The first layer of soil was loose, dry, and dusty, crumbling easily between her fingers. She worked quickly, methodically, each movement careful to preserve what might lie beneath. As she dug, the air grew heavier, scented with the faint tang of damp earth and the sweetness of fallen mango blossoms. The night seemed alive around her, every rustle of leaves, every distant animal call sharpening her senses. Her bare knees pressed into the cold ground, the rough bark of the tree biting lightly at her back, but she barely noticed. As she dug deeper, the soil began to warm in a way that startled her. It was not the warmth of the moon or even the residual heat of the day. This was different, alive in a subtle, pulsing way. It radiated from beneath, almost as though the earth itself was urging her onward, testing her patience, her determination, her worthiness. She paused for a moment, letting her fingers brush against the soil as she listened to the faint hum that now rose in resonance with her heartbeat. The memory of her mother, of the elders' words, of the symbols etched into the earth earlier all merged into a single urgent purpose. Hours seemed to pass as she dug, each handful of dirt removed bringing her closer to the hidden truth. Her fingers began to ache, nails broken and stained with the dark soil, but she refused to stop. She could feel it now, something beneath her hands, a subtle resistance that was not just earth but an object carefully buried, preserved and waiting. Her breath quickened, lungs burning in the cold night air, but she pressed on, her resolve unshaken by exhaustion or fear. Finally, her fingers brushed against something different. Smooth, firm and wrapped tightly in layers of cloth, it was an unmistakable anomaly in the otherwise yielding earth. She traced the edges carefully, feeling the folds, the texture, and then her heart caught in her throat as she noticed the seal pressed into the outer cloth. It was unmistakable, her mother's mark, a symbol she had memorized long ago, etched with care and intention. Her hand trembled as she lifted the bundle slowly, reverently, aware that every second mattered. The weight in her palms was not just physical. It carried the weight of generations, the legacy her stepmother and brother had tried to erase, and the promise of justice long deferred. She sat back on her heels, cradling the cloth-wrapped object against her chest. The wind rustled through the mango leaves above, almost whispering her name. The soil beneath her fingers seemed to pulse, acknowledging her courage and patience. She had reached the heart of the secret, the core of her mother's legacy. The charm her mother had hidden, the one her stepmother had feared most, was now in her hands. Every stolen moment, every cruel word, every barefoot step through the compound had led her to this revelation. Her mind raced, imagining the consequences. The stepmother and brother, blinded by greed and fear, had thought themselves clever. They had buried the charm, destroyed records and silenced witnesses, but they had underestimated her. They had forgotten that true inheritance was not about strength or cruelty or deceit. It was about awareness, patience and courage. She had all three in abundance. For a long moment, she simply held the bundle, letting the weight of the soil, the night, and her mother's intention settle into her. She traced the seal again with her fingertips, feeling the warmth beneath it, the hum that now seemed to resonate from the object itself. This was more than a charm. It was a key, a guide, and a testament. The night was silent but full of power, and she understood that her journey into the earth had only begun. From this moment she was no longer a girl subjected to cruelty. She was the heir, the custodian, and the force her oppressors had tried and failed to suppress. Her bare feet pressed into the soil one last time before she rose, ready to face what came next, the weight of the past and the promise of the future cradled in her hands, the earth beneath her whispering that the time for justice had arrived. Here is your 750-word expansion, cinematic, full, no headings, no reduction. The moment her fingers closed around the charm, the world seemed to tilt and shiver. Its weight was heavier than she expected, though not in pounds but in significance. It hummed gently in her palm, the warmth spreading through her skin, up her arms and settling deep into her chest. A soft, golden glow began to emanate from the rainstone, faint at first, like sunlight filtering through morning mist, then brighter, bathing the mango tree and the soil beneath her feet in a gentle, sacred light. She gasped, startled but did not let go. The glow was not frightening, it felt like recognition, like the earth itself acknowledging that she had come to claim her rightful place. Almost instantly visions began to cascade through her mind. They came without warning, rushing in like a river breaking through a dam. She saw her mother's hands, delicate and strong at once, shaping the charm, whispering blessings into it, and embedding her intention and knowledge into every layer. She saw the nights her mother spent protecting secrets, teaching lessons through small gestures and hidden symbols, and leaving messages only the girl could understand. Each vision pulsed with emotion, love, sorrow, fear, and above all, determination. The visions expanded, reaching beyond her mother. She saw the household as it had once been whole and pure, before her stepmother's ambition and her brother's envy had poisoned it. She saw betrayal, the secret deals, the lies, the cruelty carefully orchestrated to silence her and erase her inheritance. She saw her brother taking her shoes, mocking her, and forcing her into submission, believing he could break her spirit. She saw the stepmother whispering into his ears, planting deceit, erasing clues, hiding the charm, and locking away the truth. Each image burned into her mind, precise and undeniable, leaving no room for doubt or confusion. Yet, intertwined with the betrayals, she also saw what had been meant for her. The rightful lineage, the true heirs of the household, the knowledge that had been passed through generations of guardians, all of it was hers. The charm revealed not only what was stolen but what was hers by blood, by destiny, by the careful planning of a mother who had understood the future better than anyone else. The visions of her mother's hands guided her now, showing paths, revealing hidden truths, whispering names and stories she had never known. As the visions subsided into a steady glow, the charm pulsed softly in her hand, as if confirming her place as the custodian. A breeze swept through the mango tree, stronger and warmer than the night wind should have been. It twisted and lifted the leaves, carrying the scent of rain and earth, the whisper of voices she did not know yet somehow recognized. The wind felt alive, and she understood instinctively that it was the acknowledgement of her ancestors. Their presence surged around her, a silent chorus of approval, of pride, of expectation. She was no longer just a girl who had been humiliated, overlooked, and oppressed. She was the guardian, the heir, the one chosen to carry forward the oath her mother had protected. Her chest swelled with a mixture of awe and determination. The visions had shown her the depth of deception, but also the clarity of her own purpose. She could feel the power in the charm, the guidance it offered, the connection to generations past, and the responsibility it imposed. It was a gift and a challenge, a calling she could not ignore. She rose, clutching the glowing rainstone, and looked around the compound. The shadows of her brother and stepmother seemed smaller now, insignificant against the truth she now embodied. The wind shifted again, whispering through the leaves, echoing in the soil beneath her feet. It was a declaration. The past had spoken, the present had awakened, and the future belonged to her. The charm had revealed her lineage, exposed the betrayals, and marked her as the rightful custodian. For the first time she understood that power, justice, and truth were not stolen by cruelty. They were earned, awakened, and recognized. She was ready. Here is your 500-word expansion, full, cinematic, no headings, no reduction. The next morning the girl returned to the compound, the charm safely cradled in her hands, its glow faint but steady. Word of the strange events beneath the mango tree had begun to stir in her mind, but she did not yet act recklessly. She waited, sensing that the time for confrontation would not be chosen by her, but by the forces that had guided her all along. It was not long before her stepmother and brother noticed the change in her demeanor, the way she walked with quiet authority, her bare feet seemingly grounded yet unstoppable. Their fear was immediate, their envy sharpened by the knowledge that she now possessed what they had tried to steal from her forever. Before she could act, they confronted her, demanding the charm, their voices rising with anger and desperation. Her brother lunged forward, hand outstretched, his eyes wild with panic. The stepmother followed, her own hand trembling as she reached for the object, her words dripping with lies and threats. But the moment their fingers brushed the air above the charm, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The soil shifted and cracked, subtle at first, then violently, as though the earth itself had decided it would no longer bear their treachery. The vibrations rattled the house, the mango tree swaying as if moved by invisible hands. The charm pulsed brighter in her grasp, and a low hum filled the air, rising from the soil, intertwining with the wind. The villagers, drawn by the commotion, rushed toward the scene, their eyes wide in awe and disbelief. As they approached, the tremors of the earth revealed long-hidden secrets. Fragments of buried letters, broken symbols, and the scattered remnants of records that the stepmother had painstakingly tried to erase. The truth could no longer be hidden. The earth, the charm, and the ancestors themselves were exposing it. Her brother stumbled backward as the villagers saw the cruelty he had inflicted, the shoving, the theft, the relentless desire to control what was not his. The stepmother's face paled as the depth of her deceit became visible. Every lie she had spun now laid bare before the entire village. The wind whispered through the compound as if echoing the voices of generations past, their silent judgment now audible to all. The girl stepped forward, calm and resolute, holding the charm firmly. She did not need to shout, did not need to plead. The earth had spoken, the ancestors had acted, and the villagers witnessed the justice she had inherited. Her brother and stepmother, for all their power and schemes, were powerless against the truth. They could not escape the consequences of their cruelty, the exposure of their deceit, or the rightful restoration of what had been stolen. The crowd fell silent, awed and respectful as she raised the charm slightly, its glow soft but undeniable. In that moment the balance had shifted. The girl who had once been mocked for walking barefoot now stood as the rightful custodian, the heir, and the living embodiment of justice that no lies, no theft and no cruelty could ever suppress. The day that followed the revelation at the mango tree was unlike any other the village had seen. Dawn broke slowly, spilling a soft golden light over the compound, illuminating the overturned soil, the broken remnants of the stepmother's deception, and the gathered villagers whose eyes reflected a mixture of awe, respect, and understanding. For the first time in many years, the girl moved through the household not as a victim, not as the object of cruelty, but as the custodian of truth, the bearer of a legacy that had been painstakingly hidden, protected, and preserved for her alone. Her bare feet, once a mark of shame, now carried her firmly through the compound, each step a declaration, each movement a testament to the resilience and wisdom she had cultivated in the face of endless oppression. The villagers, initially cautious, began to approach her, whispering among themselves. Their fear of the stepmother and brother, which had kept them silent for so long, now gave way to curiosity and reverence. They had witnessed the earth itself rise to defend her, the charm glowing with power, and the secrets long buried revealed in the open sunlight. Mothers clutched their children closer, elders nodded knowingly, and even those who had previously doubted her resolve felt the weight of her presence. In that moment she was no longer just a girl of the household, she was the embodiment of justice, the living testament to the power of courage, observation and patience. She returned the charm to its rightful place beneath the mango tree, in a small hollow lined with soft soil and remnants of her mother's symbols. Here it would remain, accessible only to those chosen by the legacy itself, its glow visible at times to the worthy, invisible to those unprepared or unworthy. She marked the location carefully, reinforcing the protective symbols her mother had carved into the earth so long ago. The soil hummed beneath her touch, responding to the rightful custodian, acknowledging the balance restored. Every movement she made resonated with the weight of ancestral approval, every gesture a dialogue between past and present. The stepmother and brother, humiliated and powerless, were left with no refuge. Their schemes, carefully executed over years of manipulation, crumbled before the eyes of the village. No plea, no lie, no act of defiance could undo the truth now exposed. The villagers, guided by the evidence the earth had revealed, imposed justice upon them. The stepmother was stripped of her authority within the household, her influence nullified, and she was made to atone publicly for the years of deceit she had orchestrated. The brother, whose cruelty had been relentless, was confronted with the enormity of his betrayal. He was forced to face the weight of his own actions, the damage done not only to his sister but to the family he had sought to dominate and control. Their downfall was complete, not through violence, but through the revelation of truth, the inescapable clarity that only the earth, the charm, and the girl's unwavering courage could bring. With the household restored, she began the delicate work of rebuilding. The charm, now secure, became a symbol of guidance for the village. She taught the children to respect the earth beneath their feet, to observe, to listen, and to honor the knowledge passed down from their ancestors. She told them stories of patience, of cunning, of bravery hidden in small, deliberate steps. Each tale she shared was infused with the memory of her mother, the lessons embedded in the soil, and the power of resilience that had allowed her to survive and thrive. The children listened wide-eyed, imagining the bare feet that had awakened the earth, the symbols that had guided her, and the unseen forces that had acknowledged her rightful place. In their play and in their learning, they began to understand that courage need not roar. Sometimes it whispered through small acts, through careful observation, through steps taken where others feared to tread. The girl, now fully grown into her role, continued to nurture the household and the village. She honored her mother by maintaining the sacred spaces, preserving the symbols and teaching others the rituals that connected them to their lineage. Her presence became a daily reminder that legacy was not stolen by cruelty or obscured by greed. The village began to celebrate the day she uncovered the charm, not as a moment of personal triumph alone, but as a communal recognition of the power of truth, the endurance of ancestry, and the importance of courage in the face of oppression. Over time, her story became legend. Mothers recounted it to their daughters, emphasizing the lessons hidden in the girl's barefoot steps, that humility could coexist with strength, that silence could conceal power, and that the smallest, most deliberate actions could awaken the mightiest forces. Young boys and girls played beneath the mango tree, tracing patterns in the soil, imagining themselves following the steps that had unearthed a family's hidden truth. Elders told of how the earth had recognized its rightful custodian, how the charm had chosen the worthy, and how the ancestors themselves had intervened to restore justice. She also became a living example of how resilience shapes destiny. She showed the village that hardship, cruelty, and betrayal could not erase identity or purpose. Each interaction with her, each story she told, each lesson she imparted reminded everyone that the past carried knowledge and power that could guide the future. Her lineage, restored and celebrated, became a beacon of hope and wisdom. The charm, safely hidden yet honored, symbolized the truth that could not be buried, the power that could not be stolen, and the steps small and deliberate enough to awaken it. Years passed and the girl, now a woman, continued to walk barefoot beneath the mango tree, her steps deliberate, respectful, and strong. Each footfall was a reminder to the village that truth was alive, that justice could be preserved, and that the legacy of ancestors demanded both recognition and care. Travelers came from far and wide, drawn by the tale of the girl whose small, barefoot steps revealed secrets that had terrified even the cruelest of hearts. The village thrived, anchored in the wisdom she had uncovered and the courage she had embodied. Her story endured not merely as a legend, but as a living lesson, that small steps, guided by patience, observation, and integrity, could awaken truths long hidden, challenge the forces of deceit, and restore the honor of a lineage that no cruelty could erase. The girl who had once been mocked for walking barefoot became the symbol of resilience, destiny, and the enduring power of inheritance. The charm remained beneath the mango tree, its glow a soft reminder to all who approached that some truths, no matter how deeply buried, cannot be hidden forever. And so, the village never forgot the girl whose single barefoot step changed everything. Her story became a tale told in whispers and songs, in the laughter of children, and in the solemn nods of elders who recognized in her the living embodiment of courage, heritage, and the quiet yet unstoppable force of truth.